All right, guys, we're here a little bit earlier than we have been for the rest of this week. Tech stocks are down right now. Apparently, Microsoft is experiencing some type of outage, so that's interesting. We'll see if that continues or what that means for everything. But apparently, like CrowdStrike is gapping down like a massive amount. If you look at CrowdStrike, apparently the outage is related to them. Like banks, some banks are down. Look at CrowdStrike gap down on this news. I was trying to buy the dip right here, but it's just too early in pre-market for me to do it on TOS. So I'm kind of bummed because I wanted to buy this dip, and it's since bouncing back here. I wanted to buy it right here. But yeah, it's just not letting me buy it, unfortunately. Let me get some music up. Yeah, CrowdStrike. So this is basically, they're saying it's shutting down back. Basically, they're saying airports, trains, banks shut down on this news. This is negatively affecting Microsoft as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Most hospitals are down. You see CrowdStrike on the right. I wanted to buy it up, to be honest, because I think it was still an overreaction. You know, it gapped down a big amount. You know, it gapped down over 25%. Okay. Yeah, so again, a lot of stuff's down. Microsoft's gapping down too. Honestly, the whole market kind of went down yesterday, to be honest.
Oh.
Sorry, that's a TikTok playing in the background. It was some lady in a tiger outfit. I'm not sure what she was saying. Honestly, I was looking at it though, like, wow. Sorry, I'm trying to manage stuff for TikTok. There's got to be a way. Yeah, interesting. Wife working in hospitals now. She said all surrounding hospital systems are down. John, so I called out heat for the past week, and my calls are up now from 618% to 7,600%. But I have a question for you. Not that I'm complaining, but why would he having to pay lawsuits be bullish? Well, it depends on the outlook regarding the lawsuits to begin with, right? So, like I think the way you probably should look at it is this going to leave a lot of their problems behind, them paying these lawsuits? If it will, then it's an optimistic thing for them to just kind of put it down, like just kind of get these lawsuits out the way and move forward. If they thought they were going to have to pay more, they thought the problems regarding those lawsuits were going to be more lengthy. Paying the lawsuits down might make them go up. Again, I don't really know the situation. I haven't really been following that company at all. But if people thought the lawsuits would be worse, affecting them worse, that is, then maybe that could make them go up. But again, I don't know. This is just a guess, to be honest. All right, so NASDAQ spokesperson says, quote, our European markets and U.S. pre-market are operating normally. Expect U.S. markets to open normally. Yeah. Yeah, CrowdStrike. Nvidia likely going back up instead of falling below 117. Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of this news. CrowdStrike, again, the big story of today. CrowdStrike CEO says the incident is not a security incident or cyber attack. The issue has been isolated and a fix has been deployed. United Airlines resumes some flights but expects the schedule disruptions to continue throughout Friday. So again, we're posting some of this stuff in chat. Again, United Airlines getting affected by CrowdStrike too. Like, look at this. Yeah, a lot of stuff's down. A lot of stuff's down, y'all. Y'all be careful. United Utilities resume some flights. But expect scheduled disruptions to continue throughout today. All right, we did have some bank earnings today too. Halliburton just released their numbers. I thought we had more banks dropping earnings today. I might have been wrong. I thought we had Amex this morning. What happened to Amex? Do we have Amex today? Trade stocks, futures. Japan dumped U.S. Treasuries yesterday. My mic is a little bit low. Yeah, I probably should just fix it like this. Yeah, there we go. It's probably a little bit better mic-wise, right? Microsoft says the underlying cause has been fixed. So again, if I could buy up CrowdStrike right now, I probably would. Nvidia is down a lot. See, what's weird is like my portfolio dropped a bunch yesterday. I'm trying to see what it was, or if it was just a little bit of everything. Like, it didn't drop that much. Like, it dropped like $200 in profit. But I'm trying to look at what caused it, and I'm not really sure. Everything looks pretty much the same. I know I'm down about $30 more in Disney. MU, I'm down. Maybe it's MU did it. Did MU fall heavily yesterday? Yeah. All right, so MU dropped. Yeah, so MU dropped heavily. What else? Amex expected at 7 a.m. Got you. Yeah, MU's down. I might add a little bit more to my MU position. We're in it. Like, we're not down that much, though. But MU shouldn't have caused this. Maybe Nvidia, I guess. What's weird is everything else were green. Maybe Snowflake caused it, I think, is what I'm looking at. Snow. So Snow. Yeah, it was Snow. So Snow dropped a lot. I gotta be careful with Snowflake. I don't want to hold. That's one of those positions I don't want to just hold blindly. Yeah, honestly, I wanted to buy CrowdStrike, dude. I just can't buy it yet. It's too early. I can't buy it before 7 a.m. on. I can't buy it before 7 a.m. on in the morning. So I have to wait. I wanted to buy it way down here at 285s. I just couldn't. You know. Yeah, so again, tech outages around the world have caused struggles to airlines and businesses. They're scrambling, but Microsoft said it was investigating an issue preventing users from accessing its apps and services. Industry experts said the disruption appears to stem from an issue with CrowdStrike, which is their cybersecurity firm. Here's CrowdStrike right here. Again, it dropped all the way down to 270s. I wanted to buy it up. I just can't buy anything on Thinkorswim before 7 a.m. So, but I wanted to buy it up way down here, and you know, it's since bounced back a really nice amount. But that's okay. You know, we'll be all right if we miss out on this one trade. Although I am kind of bummed about it. I'll have to check Webull. When's the earliest you can trade on Webull? I've been thinking about the switch. I've been thinking about switching some of my money there and just keeping the other, you know, keeping more money here. Again, Delta, United Airlines, American Airlines have had flights on the ground. They haven't been able to leave because of this tech issue arising. According to the FAA, international airlines, including Virgin Australia and others, also have seen disruptions. Banks have been hurt from this as well. Telecom companies in Australia, New Zealand have been affected. A lot of hospitals are being affected by this. So overall, this CrowdStrike thing is really negatively impacting everything. CrowdStrike dropped big. Microsoft basically is now saying the issue is fixed, but airlines are still expecting. Airlines are still expecting struggles. So we'll see what happens. Chat. We'll see what happens. What's up, Finch? Easy Mike, Pawn, Sam, Rudd, Yair. Japan CPI also came in yesterday and caused big sell-offs in both gold and oil. So gold and oil. I'm from Louisiana, so it's always been hard for me to say oil. Some people say oil. But again, if you look at gold is pulled all the way back to $2,400 a share. If we look at gold here, $2,400 a share is down. What's your opinion on what? Will Microsoft dip further as market opens? That's something that I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think Microsoft will probably bounce back more, but I think it already happened. Microsoft hit 425s this morning. A huge drop. Big percentage drop. 425s. I think it's important to look at it. I think since the issues are mostly resolved, at least that's what they're putting out, I think I'm not going to short them for sure. But I also think they bounced back enough, so it's a little bit unknown. I think it's ambiguous here. I think it could bounce back more and fill some of this gap, but I couldn't imagine it fills the entire gap for Microsoft, considering all the problems that have occurred from CrowdStrike and Microsoft. And so part of me honestly wants to short it here because, we had a really negative reaction. We had a really big bounce back in both CrowdStrike and Microsoft. And I just don't think that we're going to bounce all the way back here. I think that would be a silly thing to completely fill the gap on the upside after all this bad news. I just don't think that seems very plausible to me. I think it's more likely that we come back down some more and then do whatever. That's my guess here, right? But again, I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. That's what I think, and I think that makes sense. I think it's more plausible than assuming they bounce and fill the entire gap all the way back. I'm not saying they're not going to fill the gap. They certainly could completely fill the gap back, but it's just less probable. I think it would be less sensical, if that makes sense. It just wouldn't make as much sense because there's still problems. It still means negativity for the companies. So I wonder if CrowdStrike sells off more after the open. Seems like a pretty big issue with them being to blame. Hey, what's up, Aqua? Jason? It's a solid guess for sure, but you never know. Right, for sure. We're just guessing here. Nobody really knows that. So, hey, y'all hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. We're trying to stream earlier again, but I know I'm a little bit late still, so. Yeah, next week we got some earnings coming out too, so next week's a very busy week for earnings. So Monday we have Verizon, Bank of Hawaii, Dynex, and HBT. Monday evening we got Cleveland Cliffs, NXP Semiconductors, a couple other ones. Monday's a little slow. Tuesday is when the big boys come out for earnings. We got Spotify, UPS, GE, GM, Coca-Cola, Lockheed Martin, Comcast, Polaris, Philip Morris, Danaher Corporation, Moody's, Quest Diagnostics, Sherwin-Williams, Bank of California, First Bank, Albertsons, Franklin Electric, a bunch of other ones too. So we got those. Tuesday evening is when the really big ones start. Tuesday evening we got Tesla earnings, and we have Google earnings Tuesday evening. So those are pretty big, very relevant, of course. We'll cover them. And then Wednesday we've got like AT&T, a couple other small ones. And then Wednesday evening we've got Chipotle, Ford, IBM, VKTX, Las Vegas Sands. A lot of other stuff too that we're watching here. Thursday morning we got American Airline, AbbVie, Hasbro, Honeywell, Southwest, New York Bank, RTX, Dr. Pepper, Keurig, Valero, NASDAQ. And then Thursday evening we've got Skechers, Deckers, Texas Roadhouse, Dexcom. Nothing really big. Honestly, the only really big earnings that we're gonna cover, like really, like that we're gonna have a dedicated stream for, that is, are the only big companies is really Tuesday. You know, Tuesday we have those big ones, and then after that it's kind of slow. I mean, we got some in the morning. Yeah, I'm looking at the next Monday though. So not next week, but the week after, we got Tilray, McDonald's. When are all the big earnings coming out, man? Tuesday, SoFi, PayPal, BP. Tuesday evening, we got AMD and Microsoft. Okay, so next Tuesday, not this upcoming Tuesday, but the Tuesday afterwards, we got Microsoft earnings, AMD earnings. That'll be pretty big. And again, let's watch CrowdStrike to see if we bounces back. I can finally trade right now, so I am allowed to trade currently. You know. Wednesday we got Boeing. That'll be a big one. We got Meta. Okay, we got Meta and ARM on July 31st. So a little bit busier week. We'll have to stream those too. Thursday we got Crocs. A couple other ones. Ugh, they did it again, bro. Come on now, dude. Like, why would they design it like this? I hate their earnings design, bro. Like, honestly, boo. You know? Like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little bit vocal about this. But they're doing Amazon, Apple, Intel, Coinbase, SQ, DraftKings, Roku, Mara, Snapchat, all within 30 minutes of each other. Like, why? Like, why would you do this? Like, why not break them up into different days? Give them their own days. Nvidia bouncing up a little bit right now. Let's see if Nvidia continues. Some type of news just happened for Nvidia. Look at this candle. Something just showed up for Nvidia. Look at this candle that Microsoft says underlying cause has been fixed. Residual impact is continuing to affect some Microsoft 365 apps and services. You know they're getting this out because they didn't even spell some stuff right. They didn't even spell impact correctly. They're misspelling stuff here. But yeah, this is the news that they just dropped right here. Underlying cause has been fixed. Residual impact is continuing to affect some customers. Amex just released. So Amex is out. So Amex just reported. All right, we're at 256 right now. 256 for Amex. It's shooting up. Here's the earnings for Amex. They posted 349 versus 326 adjusted EPS, revenue of 16.3. They expected 16.6, so a miss on revenue, which is interesting though. They missed revenue. John, you gonna stream, brother? Stream what? That day? Yeah, of course I'm gonna stream that day. It's the biggest earnings day of the season, of the quarter. Of course I'm gonna stream that day. I'll probably cover Apple. I'll probably try to cover Apple. I might cover both of them, to be honest. One thing that I've been thinking about doing during earnings season is I've been thinking about buying a new laptop and streaming both the earnings calls, like streaming both the earnings calls. Like, I won't be able to cover it like I normally do, where big earnings, I start the stream about 45 minutes early, and I start to really kind of talk about it, get hyped up before the earnings drop, and then cover the earnings drop, and then the earnings call as well. I won't be able to do that, but what I'll try to do is stream. I'll probably at least try to stream Apple and Amazon earnings, both of them. Yeah, that's what really grew the channel, is covering earnings. Yeah, you're probably right, Yair. Tesla's starting to bounce back, though. CrowdStrike's starting to bounce back. You know what? I'm going to take a little risk here, and I'm going to short this. Small trade. Very small trade. I just think it's going to come back down some. I might be wrong, though. Let's see. Wish me luck, guys. This is a dumb trade on my end. Again, we're going to take a small enough trade to where it's not going to really make any difference. We'll take 8 shares. Yeah, we're short 8 shares of CrowdStrike. We'll see what happens here, chat. I'm not a big short position guy either. But I think it's bounced back enough to where I don't necessarily trust it. I think the reputation's hurt. And this will give me a little bit of more room to add to it if I want to. Alright, guys. So we're short CrowdStrike. Thoughts on all the outages and hacks going around the world? Is it only Microsoft affected? Yeah, well, Microsoft is hurting from this, but it's CrowdStrike specifically, which is their cybersecurity firm. CrowdStrike has bounced back a lot, though. It's one of the reasons I'm still shorting CrowdStrike, just for a little play trade. Like, this trade is too small to really mean too much here. But I like the idea, I think. Like, the idea here is this, right? Like, originally I wanted to buy it down here, but it's rebounded all the way back, and I would assume that this is still going to negatively impact them at least a little bit here, no? And so my guess is they shutter back down to here maybe, and then they might come back up, but like I think they're going to drop to 290s. I might be wrong, though, so again, I'm taking small enough size to where it doesn't really matter either way. Alright, so Nvidia back up. Nvidia is back up some. Alright, so we're up a little bit of CrowdStrike here. I'll take profits on this quick too. We're just kind of playing with this trade. You would think they would take a hit at market open. You never know what else is affected. Right, but I think one thing you learn in trading is that correlations aren't always the easiest thing to spot. Like, that's the first thing you understand, right? Like, this is the first lesson I think a lot of traders get, is that correlations are not that easy to spot. Right, so you might think of very obvious correlations that you think are easy money, and then you realize they're just not. Like, it just doesn't end up working out. Bounce backs happen, you know, especially news related. I'm trying to just look at kind of like the range and see if we can find some edge here and take quick profit and move on with the day. Meanwhile, Nvidia is starting to bounce back though. So Nvidia is starting to bounce back. All right. Alright, so we're up a little bit on CrowdStrike here. I want to give it time too and look at Nvidia pop right back. So again, it's interesting because Amex was green on their earnings, came all the way back down. Nvidia is all the way back up to 121s in pre-market, although again, it's still technically down on the day here, but it's fighting back a little bit closer here. CrowdStrike is down big. It dropped over 25%. Yeah, so there's CrowdStrike starting to flush a little bit more. Alright, so we're rebounding back up. Do you think paper challenge are worth it? Canadian dollar news. Yeah, so Tesla coming down to 249.30s. Alright, so CrowdStrike bouncing back again. We're shorting CrowdStrike with a very small position. All right, guys, so we're back in CrowdStrike. Again, we're green on it, but I'm not up enough to take profits yet. I'm surprised I didn't hear what happened to Crwd. Yeah, so, again, I'm going to go over the breaking news today again. CrowdStrike is down today after Microsoft systems went down a lot for a lot of different places, specifically airlines, hospitals. Banks are negatively impacted by CrowdStrike, and it's affecting everything. You know, CrowdStrike gapped down 25% plus at one point, you know, dropped all the way down to 270s, over 25% drop. And so it has since bounced back some, and we're kind of shorting the bounce back here, but it's very strange. It's very odd. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what we get. There we go. It's a little bit better, but look how volatile this is. All right, we just took half off. Protected the trade. Again, it's a little baby short. I didn't think we would hold here. We'll try to give the rest time. I think CrowdStrike's probably going to continue coming back down, right? That's what makes the most sense for me. so here's a little bounce back. So we did take profit there. That'll give us a little bit more room. We'll see what Nvidia does here too. I was down 1500 on CrowdStrike at the bottom. Even the Las Vegas Sphere got hit. Hey, what's up, Andrew? Yeah, I mean, Jeff, CrowdStrike news is pretty big. It's affecting everything. It's all over the market right now. Again, essentially what happened is this, right? Like I'll go over like a detailed breakdown. So CrowdStrike, this big IT outage, Microsoft crash is affecting everything, right? Airports, trains, banks, all disrupted by the Windows issue, cybersecurity issue with CrowdStrike, right? So Windows' cybersecurity firm is CrowdStrike. You know, CrowdStrike went down, affecting all of Windows products for the most part. It's affecting banks, airports, everything. Like if you look at airports are down today. Not the stocks, but like actual flights are down this morning because of this. You know, and this is after yesterday's big red action. Again, the issue appears to be related to the global cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, which said it is aware of reports of crashes on Microsoft Windows. If we look at in more detail, they received reports of successful recoveries from some customers attempting multiple virtual machine restart operations. Also, so Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg declined to endorse either presidential candidate, adding he is, quote, not planning to be involved in the election. I think that's a good move. If he actually sticks with it, I think that'll be a good move. You know, but again, I think they got a lot of bad perception, public perception regarding the elections, and like control. And so I guess what I'm thinking is he might still be involved. He's just not going to be as publicly involved. You know, is probably what he's talking about. But yeah, again, Microsoft reporting successful recovery for some customers here. Again, we're in CrowdStrike short. We're up a little bit. Just a little baby trade. We're just playing with this. Yeah, so again, we don't have anything going on today, really. It's kind of slow. All right, we're at 299.70s for CrowdStrike. There we go. Just a little, like I said, a little small short. I just didn't think it would hold up here. I thought that it had bounced back enough to like kind of reclaim some of the positive sentiment that it's gotten, but it's also still, there's a lot of big negative press right now for CrowdStrike, and so I would assume it drops down and corrects a little bit more. But again, you never freaking know. You never know. CrowdStrike issues came from an update where someone put a comma in the wrong spot. Maybe. As a programmer, some of the syntax that you use in modern programming languages aren't so restrictive with commas. Like, I'm a JavaScript programmer, so it's one of the, you know. I see it as buying opportunity. Was thinking of buying call options. Yeah, I was trying to buy, again, the logic of this short here. I was trying to buy CrowdStrike down here. I really was. Like, but I can't buy it before 7 a.m. And so I saw this way down here. It looked really good, but I couldn't buy it before 7 a.m. And so by the time I was able to buy it, it had bounced all the way back up here. And I just thought that was a little bit extended now. Like, I think it's fine for them to fill the gap some, but I think it's a different thing for them to completely fill the gap after all this negative press. I think that's less likely of a thing, right? I think it's less likely that CrowdStrike comes all the way back and there's no negative impact from this thing. Even if they get things back up and running well, I still think there's going to be some lingering negative sentiment that happens from this event, right? And so for them to have already bounced back this huge amount, I just think it made sense to short right here. I'm not going to hold it long, but I think if it drops back down to here, I'll cut it and, you know, be happy with that short. If it drops down there, we'll see. And we'll just sit in it and wait and let you guys know how it goes. Up about 15, 20 bucks. Nvidia will be a little green today. Yeah, it's down big, you know, but who knows? CrowdStrike, yeah. Nvidia's trying to go green too. Nvidia's trying to bounce back. We're actually green in equities on the day. We kind of need it after yesterday's portfolio. Treasury bills helping me out today too. So, silver lining was CrowdStrike had a ton of customers. Yeah, for sure. They were deeply involved with everything, which is good, I guess. Again, y'all do me a favor. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Boolean. Boolean is just true false. So like Boolean values, bullseye is just true false. It's like if x equals b, you know, or if x equals true, do this, like a conditional statement. If x does this, do this, right? Or if x equals true, do this, right? If x equals false, do this. If x equals nan, do this, right? Like the Boolean values, true or false values is what Boolean means. Syntax is a different thing. Syntax is like, you know, the language. Boolean just means true, false values. BlackBerry? Where's BlackBerry at? Honestly, CrowdStrike started to bounce back. Let's see if my short works out. Again, we got a little bit of profit. It's such a small trade, it doesn't matter too much. Like, we're just playing with it here. We'll see what we get. What kind of legal issues are happening? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. Nvidia at 121s. CrowdStrike at 300s. Most code is either Java or Python. Depends on what kind of code. You know, software for sure, yeah. Software, Python, Java, you know. It just depends with software. It depends on whether it's Apple, you know, if it's Apple, if it's Microsoft, Android, it's different. It really just depends. I was a JavaScript developer, which is completely different than Java. But I also know Python. Python's a very literal language. So it's like very literal. Like Python is kind of like you just saying it. Like if X does this, do this, right? If X equals this, do this, you know. Like functions are easy to create in Python. You know, the syntax is very easy, literal. It's a little bit more strict than something like JavaScript, but it's more literal for sure. Anyways, Tesla at 250s right now. Tesla at 250s. CrowdStrike is bouncing back some, so maybe my short isn't a good idea. Or maybe I should add to the short. It's such a small trade, I don't know what I want to do here. I still think CrowdStrike comes back down, unless it's artificially pumped, is the only thing, right? If it's artificial, we'll get back into our full-size trade, which was 8 shares. We'll get 10 shares. We'll have some fun. We'll get 10 shares. Let's see if we come back down. But again, it's a risk. And again, it's a risk that we can take because we're just, you know. Usually I'm playing the other side of this trade. Usually I'm longing these big extended reactions. But the problem here is, like, I don't know if I necessarily think this is an overreaction. I think if all these major systems are shut down because of CrowdStrike, you know, I don't know, man. I think it's possible that it comes back down a little bit. But again, as I said earlier, there's no freaking guarantee about anything here. Anything can freaking happen. And I'm going to be very close to cutting it too, just in case I need to. I will cut this very fast. Yeah, do y'all think everybody's still sleeping, I guess? It is summertime, right? I think, like, July is one of our slowest months that we have on beginner trading. And I think it's just because everybody's traveling, and they're up, and they're traveling, and they're doing stuff. And so I think everybody's traveling, and everybody's busy. TSCM? Or TSMC? Or is it TSCM? Yeah, so we're going to start thinking about cutting this. I'm not going to hold it too long. I'm just surprised CrowdStrike would bounce all the way back up. And again, maybe a lot of this is from maybe FOMO of me wanting to go long way back here and just not being able to. So one of the things I'm going to consider about today is I'm going to think about switching in some funds over to Webull so I could take these type of trades if I want them, because I wanted to buy CrowdStrike hours ago and I couldn't, and so that sucks. I want to be able to buy it if I need to buy it. I'll give the short a little bit of time though. Yeah, no systems are up. Yeah, so Netflix did report earnings, right? So Netflix reported earnings for tech, and Netflix is almost green on the day here. So again, Netflix is almost green. I don't think today's quad witch. Let me see. No, quad witch is third Friday of March, June, September, and December. And so, yeah, it's just not quad witching day today. Again, Netflix affecting everything. Banks. Netflix still running strong, though. So Netflix should do okay. I'm trying to look at Netflix's earnings. Netflix showed guidance of $9.73 billion for the third quarter. You know what? I'll go ahead and take a little risk here. Just 20 shares. And then we'll be prepared to cut it fast if we need to. I don't mind losing up to $80 on this trade. But yeah, looking at Netflix here again, guys. Netflix guided for 510 on revenue of 9.7 versus 9.8 billion in consensus. Quarter two GAAP EPS was 488, beat 475 estimate. Sales of 9.559 beat the 9.52 estimate. So Netflix slightly beat their numbers here. Here's Netflix. So again, here's Netflix's numbers here that they posted earlier. Hey, beginner trader, can you give us a tip on what to look for fundamentally on the Dow? No, I'm not the guy. I mean, fundamentally, the Dow is just the Dow, bro. You know? So what I mean by that is, like, the Dow is an index fund. So, like, fundamentally, and again, I'm going to preface this with I am not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose. You always have to make your own assessment, trade responsibly. I can't guarantee anything or anything will happen in the Dow and any financial market. Not an investment professional. Do not copy me. What I personally do with index funds is you dollar cost average into them long term and you sit on them, right? So like most index funds are going to go up long term. Like long term, the Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ are going to move up for the most part, right? Like these are index funds that are almost certainly going to increase over time. And so with that, you know, with that, the better move, the only real move to do with index funds is to buy and sit on them long term, in my opinion. You can day trade them. Like I day trade index funds as well. But if you're planning on holding outside of a day trade, you know, then you sit and you just wait, you know. Yeah, Netflix did have lower guidance for sure. So Netflix's guidance was lower. Yeah, we're right in this gap for CrowdStrike here, though. It's the only reason I'm kind of getting a little antsy about it. I'm down $50, so I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I don't want to get stuck in a gap fill. Do you think there's a recession coming? I mean, eventually we're going to be in one. You know, it might be in 10 years, might be in 2 months, you know. Eventually we're going to be in one. I don't know when. I think that, like, I think the main people that you hear unhappy right now, you hear a couple people unhappy. The main ones you hear unhappy are lenders, because lenders' businesses are negatively impacted by rates being high like they are now, right? And they want more business. They did really well in 2021. And then the Fed raised interest rates, as they should have, because inflation was getting bad, right? So the Fed raised rates, and the people who were the most affected by it are lenders mostly, right? Like mortgage brokers, real estate agents, like people who are directly influenced by interest rates, right? And so they're pushing it like it's the worst it could ever be right now. It's also an election year, right? So an election year, you know, one side is going to act like it's the greatest it's ever been, and then the other side is going to act like it's the worst it's ever been, right? And the truth is neither one of those things is true, right? And so that's why when I hear people mirror one of those two things, which is it's the best it's ever been or it's the worst it's ever been, I usually just assume that they're really politically biased. But again, most people, the truth is somewhere in the middle, is the easiest way to put it, right? So with that, the people who are really pushing like it's the end of the world economics wise are people who are really wanting rates to go down. Like, again, lenders, mortgage brokers, real estate agents, they want rates to go down a lot because they benefit from having lower interest rates, right? So if rates are at 2.3% interest instead of 7 or 8% interest, 2.5% interest instead of 7 or 8, they're going to do a lot more business. They're going to thrive, and they don't really care how much it affects everybody else in terms of inflation, because there will be a cost to low interest rates regarding inflation. Like, inflation will get worse if rates are cut too early, and if rates are cut in general, inflation will get worse. It's the natural effect of lower interest rates is inflation spikes, right? People spend more. But yeah, with all that said, I don't think that we're necessarily seeing a recession right now. Things could always get worse. You don't really know, but I don't think any of the economic reports signal a coming recession right now. Now, again, it could always change. It could always get better. It could always get worse. If we have GDP next week, next Thursday, GDP comes out. It's the initial estimate, you know, for GDP. So it's the first time they're looking at this last quarter, and so or this next quarter, and so it's the first time they're looking at it. And so if they come in really like pessimistic for GDP, then maybe we could talk about cutting rates earlier, you know. But for now, GDP's been growing, you know, payrolls have been strong, labor market's been strong. I don't think we need to cut rates right now, and I definitely don't think we look like we're gonna hit a recession right now either. I don't think we look like we're about to hit a recession right now. And the only people really pushing that, again, are people who are getting sold one of the more radical things on either side of the political spectrum. Like people, again, if one of the politicians wants to get elected right now, what does he have to make people think? He has to make people think it's the worst it could ever be. The real reason people are unhappy is because of inflation, right? Inflation has gotten bad, and that is directly due to low interest rates, right? Why did inflation get worse? Interest rates were too low for too long. You know, not too low. Too low is maybe an exaggeration, but interest rates were low. That spiked inflation. And so if you want things to be better, what you want to do is keep inflation down and keep interest rates high. But that's not as easy to promote politics-wise, you know. Most products are up 25 to 35% in rent, insurance, and gas, so you are clearly wrong. The economy for average Americans is trash. I'm not saying the economy is great. Like, what you just described, Coy, okay. What you just described is a problem with inflation, not the economy. Now, they're related, and I, you know, you could consider them one, and that's fine. But inflation is the real problem, not economic weakness, you know. And so what I'm saying is that lenders specifically and people like that are pushing for rate cuts. Like, rate cuts are somehow going to help that aspect of the economy right now. And it's the opposite. Rate cuts will make prices go up more. You know, rate cuts will make prices worse. And so we should not cut rates right now. It'll make problems worse. If people think they're unhappy now, imagine if we cut rates and inflation spikes up over the coming years to another 10-15%. People are genuinely going to panic and freak out, right? And so, yeah, it's more nuanced than that. It's not just economy good, bad, politician bad. It's more nuanced than that, I'm not saying everything's perfect economics-wise. What I'm saying is that the real problem right now is inflation. Inflation's the problem. That's what people are unhappy for, is inflation specifically, right? Outside of that, some lenders are unhappy because they're not doing like what they were in 2021. But again, we can't pander to them and make inflation worse. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, but Koi, look, and again, I'm not really like political in that way. I dislike both sides pretty evenly, So like, I'm not really super political in that way. I'm really not, right? Like, the way I look at things here is that I try to look at things objectively. And again, I try. Nobody's perfectly objective, right? But I try to do my best. Like, I think you have to take a couple things into consideration. Number one is that the pandemic was the pandemic, right? Like, that's not really any politician's fault. Now some of them could have handled it poorly, but it's certainly not like Jerome Powell's fault or anybody like that. Once we have the pandemic, there's only a couple options really. Like, once the pandemic happens, those options are the two options really. The Fed either brings interest rates down to try to save the economy from a depression during the pandemic with too little people working and spending. So the Fed can either bring interest rates down, print money, stimulate the economy through that with quantitative easing, and bring interest rates down to stimulate spending and save the economy from a depression, right? Which again, it's nobody's real fault. It's not like the pandemic isn't somebody like a politician's fault. I think that's one of the options. The other option is to not do that at all, not print money, not do quantitative easing, not cut interest rates. And then we're going to go into a deep depression in that situation. And then people are going to be sitting there saying the opposite. They're going to be saying, oh, why are we paying these politicians? They're just sitting by, letting the working man struggle. Like, that's what they're going to say. So no matter what you do in that situation, if you print money and bring interest rates down, what do people say? People say, oh, these politicians are reckless. If you don't print money and bring interest rates down, people are going to say, oh, these politicians aren't doing anything to save us here, right? And so, I don't know if we could really, I get politics is subjective, right? And so some people are going to think that some politicians handled it good or bad. And again, on both sides, really on both sides, I'm pretty neutral politically. But I don't think we can blame the pandemic on a politician either. I think you got to just kind of understand it's just a weird thing that happened. And yeah, it affected everything, to be honest. Yeah, they definitely don't need to print more money. In fact, the Fed's been in a period of quantitative tightening, which means that, they're letting their current holdings and balance sheet run off and mature and expire and shrinking their balance sheet, which they should be doing right now after lots of QE in 2020, 21, 22. Now they're doing the opposite. They're trying to shrink their balance sheet. They're trying to combat inflation, which is the goal right now. The real question is when does the Fed cut rates? And the other question is, how does the market respond to that? Historically the market reacts negatively to rate cuts, but that's usually because something's breaking. And so if we start cutting rates before something breaks, does that mean the market goes up or down? I don't know. I think it's an interesting way to look. We'll have to see what happens. I think the rate cut will come in September. Did you do the Netflix earnings play? No. I wasn't paying attention to it last night. So no, unfortunately I didn't. Looks like it would have worked perfectly too. Netflix dropped all the way down to 600s. It's back up to 640s right now, so it basically bounced right back. $650 and 600 is what percentage? It's like 7%, 6%, right? All right, so we're still in CrowdStrike short. We've been in short. We've been in CrowdStrike short for a minute. No, it's 8%. My math, the math in my head, it's close. I'm worried they cut in September and the December comes around and inflation spikes back up. I am too, to be honest, far. And I think that's the risk right now, you know, and I think people pushing for a rate cut really don't understand. I think lenders are talking people into thinking that a rate cut is what the economy needs and that the rate cut will somehow help struggling Americans. And again, I think a lot of people don't understand the consequences of rate cuts and what that means for everybody, you know. And again, that's how lenders kind of trick you. Like, lenders want to bring interest rates down. Why? Because if interest rates are 2.5%, people are going to buy a lot more homes. They're going to get a lot more mortgages. They're going to get more loans. They're going to be more attracted to lending if interest rates are low. And so lenders are almost universally always, we need rate cuts, guys. Let's bring interest rates down. You know, but the consequence on the everyday person, on the average Joe, the consequence of these rate cuts is very obvious. It is inflation. Like, your prices are going to go up way more with low interest rates. And that's the correlation people have to understand about it. You know, they have to understand the consequence of it. Again, lenders will try to trick them into thinking rate cuts is somehow good for people. It's not. It's going to make things worse. You know, yes, it's going to be harder to buy a house, but, you know, it's going to make things worse. All right, guys, so we're still short in CrowdStrike here. It's a very small position of 20 shares short. I'm not going to hold it forever, though. If they cut rates, banks will cut your interest rate on the savings. If that happens, pull your money. Yeah. So I'm in CrowdStrike short. My average price is 305, so my average price is right here. Like, we're just kind of playing with this. Like, I don't mind losing, like I said, 50 to 100 bucks here. Hopefully I make 50, 100 bucks, 200 bucks on the trade. But I mean, my logic is this, right? CrowdStrike and Microsoft had some terrible, terrible news that's still negatively impacting hospitals, banks, transportation, airlines, all that stuff, right? It's negatively impacting all of it. I wanted to buy it up down here because I thought it would bounce back some, but by the time I was able to trade, it had rebounded all the way back up here, you know, and I just do I, like, the question is, do we think CrowdStrike, like, comes all the way back today? I don't think so. I think the negative impacts of this shouldn't make it come all the way back. Although nothing's predictable in that way, right? Perfectly predictable. There's obviously a chance that this comes right back up and I get stopped out of this short. There's also, I think there's a good chance, though, that if logic prevails, at least, I think there's a good chance it at least corrects back down to 290s and stays down from this, you know, from this really bad news that happened on CrowdStrike. But who knows? Again, I'm going to watch it. You know, we'll play with it. Who knows? Yeah, a lot of people are buying houses they shouldn't. Yeah, the prices, that house prices have gone up crazy high. You know, like I know a lot of people that this exact thing happened, right? So a lot of people I know this exact thing happened where they bought a house in 2021 when their businesses were thriving. Like, I know lenders that did this, right? Lenders bought a house in 2021, mortgaged it when their business was thriving, right? And then their business basically went down dramatically afterwards. Interest rates went up, their business went down. So they struggled a lot. You know, they went from really struggling, or they went from thriving in 2021 with low interest rates to interest rates basically crashing up and their business crashing down. They lost a lot of business, and so then they're in a home they can't afford, and they have to either sell it or do whatever with it. So that's happened to a lot of people, right? That's why you hear so many people acting like it's the end of the world with high interest rates. That's why you see so many people acting like, hey, you know, we need to cut rates. But again, the real reason we need to cut rates, the only reason we should cut rates is if GDP starts looking really close to negative, right? If GDP starts to get close to negative, I think we should cut rates. If unemployment spikes up to 4.5%, 5%, I think we should probably start cutting rates as well, right? Those are the two things that I would cut rates under, right? Again, if GDP starts to get closer to negative, right, then it's considerable. If unemployment spikes up to 4.5%, 5%, then, you know, we should probably start maybe cutting. But under those two circumstances aren't here yet. We still have positive GDP. We still have low unemployment at 4.1%, right? So I don't think those things are happening yet. Most average middle and lower class people can't afford to buy, so they rent houses only for... Yeah, I mean... It's not always the perfect time to buy a home, though, is what people have to realize. And you don't want to buy a home right now and then over the coming years have real estate prices correct 30, 40%. You lose 20, 30, 40% of your investment, right? It's not always the good time to buy a home, despite what your real estate agent or lender tells you. It's not always the best time to buy a home, and real estate prices have gone up a lot. Let me see. All right, so I'm going to see if AI can give me a graph on how much real estate prices have increased over the past 5 years. Shadow band. Bro, what you say about... Yeah, I ask AI to give me a graph, and it says, it appears there's an issue generating and displaying the graph. Instead, I will provide you code in Python that you can use in a Python local environment to visualize the real estate price index. Come on now. You can do better than that. Yeah. I want a line graph, though. That's what I'm asking for. AI is actually pretty good. You know. Ugh, come on. Chat GPT. You have to basically beg it to, like, please just show me a line graph of these real estate prices, Chat GPT. Okay. This actually isn't that bad, to be honest. So look, like here's Chat GPT's graph they built me. All right, so again, here's real estate prices since 2023, right? Here's since 2019. Let me yeah, like look at this. Highlighter. No, I can't see that. Like look, here's the graph of real estate prices since 2019. Okay, so my point is, like, if you buy a home, like, one of the biggest arguments for lenders is like, hey guys, you know, we need prices to come back down, or one of the biggest arguments for lenders, I'm sorry, is that we need interest rates to come back down, right? The average Joe is struggling, you know, to buy a home. It's not time for the average Joe to buy a freaking home right now. It's not the perfect time to always buy a home. The issue is, like, if you ask a real estate agent, say, hey, is it a good time to buy a home? You know, they don't care. They just want you to buy a home. So they're going to say, yeah, it's a great time. You know, same thing with the lender. You ask a lender, hey, is it a good time to get a mortgage right now? They don't care. They're going to say, oh, it's a great time to get a mortgage. It's obviously not right now. It's obviously not. They're going to say, oh, well, you can refinance when rates go down. Sure, but what's the cost of that? You know, it's just not the best time to buy a home. And if you buy a home right now, I think it's very probable that we're going to do something like this, and you're going to lose a huge percentage of the value of that home that you just bought. You know, so again, it's not always time for the average Joe to buy a home. It's just not. And it's not something that, you know, it's something that we should look at objectively, because cuts are not necessary all the time. Bro, it's 2024. No one should have to worry about buying a house at this point, but we do. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that far, you know. Again, so like, I guess what you mean is that haven't we made enough progress to where everybody can buy a home? And I mean, you know, yes and no. Yes and no. You know, I think we have and we haven't. I think the real issue is the gold standard, right? Like, if our currencies had been kept on the gold standard, we wouldn't be in this situation right now, to be honest. But that's a longer, more complex story. All right, guys. Again, the big news of the day, chat. The big news of the day is CrowdStrike negatively impacting everything. Yeah, so again, the assessed value, which is how much the government values your home for tax purposes, have gone up a lot too, right? That's the big problem. Property tax is crazy here in Texas too. Like, property tax for me is like 2.5%, which is crazy obscene amounts. Just to put that into perspective, chat, right? 2.5%. We're back green on the CrowdStrike trade. 2.5%, right? So 2.5%. So if I own a $500,000 home here in Texas, I got to pay $12.5 thousand a year, which is crazy obscene, you know, crazy high prices. I'm going to go ahead and cover some of this position here. All right, so we just cut half of the position. We're up about 30 bucks. We'll see if this trade can keep breaking down. But yeah, I'll take this. We'll cut a little bit more there. There we go. Up about 30 bucks. We'll let the rest run. We got 7 shares left. We'll take 2 more off here. Just make it an easy 5. All right, there we go. Took some time, but the short worked. But yeah, so again, if you own a $500,000 home, you're gonna be paying around $12,500 a year. Every year, you're gonna have to pay this. If you own $1 million home, you're gonna be paying about $25,000 a year. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. I could have just doubled it. I don't know why I didn't just do 12.5 times 2, but regardless, you know, if you own $2 million home, you're gonna be paying $50K a year. You know, it's crazy. People will talk about Texas, you know, and they say, oh, freedom, guys, no state income tax. No, like, you're paying it somehow. Like, they're getting their money somehow. You know, they're just getting their money from property taxes here in Texas versus state income tax. They say the best tax states. Yeah, I mean, they say it's Texas, right? But what they mean is that there's no state income tax here, which is cool and all. But again, they make it back on property taxes for sure, you know. Look, guys, the other thing to understand about people with homes, right? So we got some people acting like things are never going to go back to normal. You know, that's not true. That's not true, right? So, like, what you got to understand is it's a wave, okay? So interest rates will go like this, right? So interest rates will go like this. You know, we're currently in a period where interest rates are really about right here, you know, but the problem, like, interest rates aren't crazy high right now, objectively, versus relative to the last, like, 30 years, interest rates aren't crazy high. You know, at some points, interest rates got up to 20%. So this is a graph, right? Let's just call this 20. Let's call this, or no. Let me fix this. So if this is a graph, right? Let's just call up here 20%. Let's call here 7%. Let's call here 3%. Right? The problem is that people got used to this here over the past 20 years. Everybody's used to low interest, right? They're used to 2.5%, 3% interest rates. And so when we spike up to 7, which is where we currently are, people say, oh no, it's the end of the world, 7% interest. How dare you even, say we get there? And this is why you're getting so much rate cut pressure. You're getting people saying, we should cut interest rates, guys. Like, we should cut rates. We shouldn't. Again, in the 80s, we were up here. We were at 20% in the 80s interest. Or no, inflation, Inflation in the 20s, in the 80s got up to 20%, not interest rates. But the problem is that everybody's used to... I think I got inflation and interest rates mixed up, but that's okay. The problem is that everybody is used to low interest rates over the last 20. So everybody's used to low interest rates. Everybody's been paying low interest rates over the last 20 years. And so they're not used to 7%. And so people stop buying homes as much. A lot of people also locked into homes already at 2.5%, 3%. And so why would you buy another home, get a new mortgage if you're already locked in at a really low rate? And again, the problem here is that with all this low interest rate environment, house prices have gone up like this. Car prices have gone up like this, right? Like used car prices in general have gone up 100%. And so it's not always the best time to buy a house, and it's not always the smartest decision unless you're paying cash right now. If you're buying a house cash right now, you can get some good deals because cash is king right now. But outside of that, it's not always the best time to buy a home. What kind of rate do you have? I have cash. I don't have a mortgage. Seems like many economists will argue it's not the interest rates today, but the fact that QE was used so liberally. We have basically zero interest rates pre-pandemic for too long. True, right? But again, you got to understand, like, QE was used in 2020. It was also used in 2008. All right, so my CrowdStrike short, you love to see it. I thought we would give it back. It just took a little bit of time. But yeah, so the problem is that the Fed did QE in 2020. They did QE in 2008 for the mortgage disaster as well, right? That caused this really low interest rate environment. QE is just a form of money printing by the Fed where they create bank reserves and then they use those bank reserves online to buy up financial assets like bonds mostly. And the consequence of this money printing is low interest rate environment where people are, more able to spend and people have more to spend. If you're paying less money in a mortgage or in auto loans, then you got more money to spend on other stuff, right? But the cost of all this increased spending is inflation, and again, I'm not mad at them for printing money. I think we needed to print money in 2020 because of the pandemic. That was one of the few historical examples where it was really justified because of how little people were working and little people were spending and all that stuff in 2020. So I'm okay with it versus some other people. Other people act like it was just the worst thing we could ever do. But I think it's easy to say that in hindsight after we've seen all this negative impacts on prices. I'm going to go ahead and cover this position in CrowdStrike, I think. Yeah, we're out. We made $35 from it. Little baby trade, but that's all right. Lots of people in Florida dropped their home insurance. Yeah. Well, we own it. Trading. We own it. We paid cash for it. We don't have a mortgage. We own it. We pay cash for it. HOA prices. I would never get an HOA. HOAs are terrible. Honestly, it's like the Stanford prison experiments. You give somebody too much power, they abuse that power. Like the other issue is you got a bunch of Karens that sit at home and don't do anything. They just want to sit around and complain and complain and complain. I've never understood that. I've known some people where we go out to eat, right? We go out to eat and it's literally like a competition on who can be the worst to the waiter. And I just never understood that behavior. Like, I never understood, like, trying to be mean to people. Some people get, like, this weird joy from it. It's strange. But yeah. Same thing with HOAs. I think you give people power with HOAs. And I think a bunch of old Karens that don't have much else to do, that sit at home all day with their dogs, just get power hungry, start being crazy. Start trying to control everybody and just being difficult. And so any place I move, like, I'm not moving to an HOA place. Yeah, I think, what do you think about Netflix earnings? I think they had good results, or they had good EPS and good revenue, but missed their guidance numbers. And they're mostly flat, which I think is a reasonable reaction to it. Like, they didn't really react much at all if we look at Netflix. So Amex reported too, but here's Netflix. So Netflix is mostly flat. They went down big, went up big. Now they're basically right in the middle, which is okay. I'm okay with this. You know, good EPS, good revenue, but bad guidance is a neutral report. So I'm okay with it. I don't deal with rude customers. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. Like, I've worked in the service industry a bunch, you know, when I was young. It's a hard job. It's hard jobs, you know. Usually, like, if you get quote-unquote bad services, it's not the waiter's fault either. Like, it might be the cook's fault, or it might be whomever in the back's fault, but it's usually not the waiter. And so punishing the waiter, being rude to the waiter, you know, I just never understood behavior. I don't mess with anybody that makes my food regardless. This is one of the big like lessons I teach my daughter. Don't mess with people that make your food. It's the dumbest thing you could ever do. But yeah. Texas has good food at gas stations. I mean, kind of. I wouldn't call gas station food good here in Texas. I think the gas station food's pretty universally bad everywhere you go. Now, someplace they'll have stands and stuff like that have some pretty decent food. But there's also, like they have some really good taco stands and stuff. But it's not the gas station themselves. Rudy's is good. Yeah, Rudy's is really good. Yeah, Rudy's is really good barbecue. In my opinion, everyone should have to work in service industries for a year of their life. Yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts on Tesla tonight? I don't know. Tesla's interesting. It's earnings season coming up. Tesla is down yesterday, but up pretty big over the last couple weeks. So Tesla has gone from 175 all the way to 250 plus. So it's been a struggle, but they're doing better. All right, Nvidia at 121's here, chat. CrowdStrike at 303. So it looks like we got out almost at the bottom here in the short-term range. So I'll take it. We made a little bit of money there. Portfolio-wise, we're green on the day. Hey, questions for those that understand T-bill, right? So here's TBIL, right? There's CrowdStrike. Here's T-bill, right? This is a Treasury bill ETF. The question I have is this, okay? The question I have is this. If T-bill reliably bounces back every couple weeks, wouldn't it make sense to just buy it up? Like, okay, So if we know that after this week here, T-bill is going to come back down to this level, wouldn't it be better to sell my entire T-bill position here? Oh, I guess I don't get the dividend is why. The dividend payment is what it, you know. That's what this is. Okay. Because okay, so basically what T-bill is, this thing pays me like 5.25% annually, right? So 5.25%. So you know, in terms of like my average payment here. So what this does, it stays about flat. The whole position stays about flat, but annually it will pay me, a dividend of I get about 5.25 divided by 12, so it's going to pay me about 0.5%, a little bit less than 0.5%, about 0.44%, right? So again, you can kind of see my investment here is 1,400 shares of this. So just to do the math here, right, just to do the math, 0.44%, just do the math, we've got 1,400 shares at 49.95, right, about $70,000, 0.44%. Oh, wait. Times is about $307, if my math is correct, monthly. So dividend payments is going to pay me about $307. Let me see when it pays out the dividend. Yeah, T-bill's dividend yields 5.5% right now too, so it's pretty solid for Treasury bill yields. So it looks like it pays out dividends in the first week of the month. So $22, $29. But I guess the question is, I guess I wouldn't get the dividend if I sell too early and I want the dividend. So yeah, you just have to write it back. But it's mostly flat though when we zoom out. Dividend payment comes first week of next month in August. All right, John, will you buy CrowdStrike today? No. So I wanted to buy CrowdStrike much earlier. I just wasn't able to. All right, chat. CrowdStrike bounced all the way back. Nvidia at 121s. Yeah, what's the Russell doing? So if we look at the Russell, RTY at 22.19s. So the Russell's had a really strong week, but also dipped yesterday. Small caps tend to run when there's weakness in large caps. Yeah, there's a lot of outages. I'm pretty sure it's affecting videos today too. Hey, thank you, Far. Yeah, y'all hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's try to get 100 likes here. Let's see if we can. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the algorithm's affected everything today. It looks like, or not the algorithm. I'm pretty sure the tech outage is affecting a lot of people today. But yeah, y'all hit that like button. Let's run those likes up. I'm not sure how many likes I have either. It might be because of this. Okay, we got 81 likes. Let's try to get at least 100 here. We just need 20, or we need 19 likes. Microsoft, Nvidia stock. Which one do you think is a better buy now? I don't know. Microsoft had really bad news this morning because of the new, because of everything going on. So, but they've bounced back a lot now. So I don't know which one's a better buy. I really don't. Yeah, but so far says buy T-bill during the first week of the month when the price drops. Just keep adding to it. You would be buying near the low, sure, but you'd miss out on the dividend too, right? Like the whole point. So the dividend gets paid in the first week of the month, right? And so if I only buy in the first week of the month, I'm not going to get the dividend payment, which is hundreds of dollars a month, you know. So like, I would rather take the 100. I'd rather get the dividend payment and just ride it. It's going to stay flat long term, excluding the dividend payment, right? So it only makes sense. So Microsoft is having a lot of issues this morning. So Microsoft is having a lot of problems, a lot of issues this morning. Microsoft, specifically because of CrowdStrike, which is one of their cybersecurity firms, is down big. So Microsoft, because of one of their cybersecurity firms, is down big. And it's one of those things that is negatively impacting everything. Hospitals are down. Transportation, airlines are down. Banks are down. A lot of tech stuff is down today overall, and that's kind of the problem with everything. Yeah, this is also historically one of the slowest weeks of the month. So Nvidia at 121s, CrowdStrike at 310s, 307s. Woman's video goes viral after birth bill was $80,000. Motrin, they gave her a loan was $3,600. Yeah, they're just trying to tax the insurance is mostly what they're doing. That's why they're like that. Does Nvidia have dividends? Hey, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, brother. So Nvidia pays a 1-cent quarterly dividend. Is that correct? 1 cent? No. Yeah, so it's a 1-cent quarterly dividend for Nvidia. So it's a 4-cent annual dividend. What a silly dividend. 1 cent, guys. 1 cent. All right, guys. CrowdStrike is back up there. There's the Russell. We're looking at the NASDAQ. I'm going to get ready to day trade here, but do we have any earnings next week on Monday? Verizon. Just Verizon. A couple other small ones. All right, so here's the NASDAQ. NASDAQ tried to go green. Nvidia tried to go green too. You can see how similar these two look as well. Here's Nvidia. Here's the NASDAQ. Strange. Yeah, Tuesday's Tesla earnings for sure. How much Nvidia I need to live off my dividends? Okay, so let's see this. You get a 1 cent per share dividend. Right, so you get a 1 cent per share dividend on Nvidia. All right, so 1 cent per share. Right, so you would need, just to make 3K a month, let's do the math here. All right, so 3K a month in cents. $3,000 a month in cents would be multiplied times 100. Okay, so to make $3,000 a month quarterly, all right, so this would be if we got paid in monthly dividends, and so quarterly would be multiplied times 3. So you would need almost 1 million shares of Nvidia to make $3,000 a month in dividends. Almost 1 million shares. You need 900,000 shares. If my math here is correct, I think it's right. But if my math here is correct, you would need about 1 million shares of Nvidia to live off of their dividend, their 1 cent a quarter dividend. Reasonable, I guess. Canadian core retail sales. Yeah, I'm looking at everything. We don't really have anything big. We got Canadian retail sales data today. It's not really anything major. Or no, do we? Let me see. Today's Friday. Yeah, we got some Fed members speaking today, though. So we do have Fed members speaking today. All right, guys. You got 1 million shares, you're good. $3,000 a year. 1 million shares is risky. Why is everything crashing so hard since yesterday? What's crashing? What's crashing? Again, Nvidia pretty flat, Nasdaq pretty flat. I just don't know what's crashing. I know some stuff is down. Microsoft and CrowdStrike are both down. We shorted CrowdStrike earlier, made some money, but Microsoft and CrowdStrike are down today. Specifically mid and small caps and meme stocks. Well, I mean, those don't really need a reason to crash. Those are mostly going to crash regardless. Small caps are small caps. They're just everything got impacted there. The Russell's down. The Russell's up a lot though. Same thing with gold. Like gold corrected. A lot of this had to do with Japan, I'm pretty sure. So like Japan. So again, one of the big things that happened overnight was Japan's national CPI came in at 2.8%, but core CPI rose. This has scared a lot of people. Let me see if I can find it was yesterday. Yeah, so Netflix came out with earnings. Did we have some news that came out? Yeah, so again, Japan CPI came in last night and caused a huge sell-off in gold and oil. And so I'm sure that's negatively impacting things too. Like oil is down yesterday, gold is down. So we'll see what happens. Next week's a big week for economic reports too. We have next week we got GDP Thursday. They don't even have an expectation yet. Let me see what another source is checking for. Let me see what GDP is expected at. So remember, it's the first estimate. It's the initial estimate GDP data, which a lot of people are going to argue is the most impactful estimate here. And so again, this is dropping next Thursday. It's expected at 2%. So they're expecting a bump up on GDP from 1.4 to 2% quarter over quarter. Right, so they are expecting an increase for GDP. Again, not really the signs of a recession like people are pushing for, who really are mostly, again, anytime you hear people pushing for a rate cut, you have to think, are they lenders? Are they mortgage brokers? Are they real estate agents? Are they people involved in real estate businesses? Those are the only people that really want rate cuts to happen. Everybody else is going to be negatively impacted by rate cuts through inflation. CrowdStrike started to pull down a little bit. I was shorting it. I don't know what I should do there either, but So there's CrowdStrike dipping down. NASDAQ at 19, a little bit under 20K. Is GDP propped up by inflation? Maybe, you know, but again, I think we have to look at inflation, you know, metrics more so than GDP to gauge inflation. You know, GDP is just spending. So, you know, higher spending does cause more inflation. But I think, like, okay, this is a couple arguments you hear. You hear people, number one, you hear people say, hey, recession risks are here, right? Recession risks are here. Terrible drawing, but that's all right. Let me get the E in. All right, recession risks are here. That's number one, right? And what are the reasons for this? They say lower GDP. Last time GDP came in at 1.4%. 1.4%. Number two, what do you hear people say? You hear people say we need a rate cut. Why do they say we need a rate cut? And their argument is this 1.4% GDP reading, right? 1.4% GDP. They're saying, oh, economic weakness. You also see your unemployment. Unemployment spiked up to from 4 to 4.1%. So people are saying that 0.1% increase justifies rate cuts, right? But the real root of the problem is inflation. Inflation is the real root of the problem. And if inflation is the real root of the problem, doing this will make inflation worse. Inflation currently at about 2.6% for core PCE, right? 2.6%. Not crazy high, but not low either. You know, the range for PCE over like CPI. CPI, the range has been up to 10%, down to 2.5%, 3%. The range is much higher. The problem really is inflation. And inflation, core PCE inflation is the one you want to look at. The top of the range over the last 5 years is like 5.5%, I think, percent. So 2.6% is somewhere in the middle inflation-wise. It's not great. It's not horrible. It's somewhere in the middle. But the problem is that cutting rates will make this spike. So if we cut rates here, it's going to make this number go up dramatically, and then people are going to complain about prices being too high. You know, so like you have to understand, if we cut rates, prices are going to be high, and that's not what we want. People are really going to be unhappy in that situation. So I hope all of that makes sense. Yeah, chips got down hammered, but chips are up so much. Yeah, AMD decreased, MU decreased. I'm in MU. You know, MU went down and then bounced back some, but MU kind of bounced back a little bit. MU mostly had a bad day on the 17th, so the day before yesterday. Yesterday was all right. It wasn't terrible, though, but it wasn't good either. Yeah, payment systems are down, cash registers, banks, a lot of stuff's down, you know. All right, chat. So CrowdStrike's still consolidating. You know, CrowdStrike's been between these levels. Again, if you're just now tuning in here, I'll put this news up on screen. If you're just now tuning in here, chat, reports on CrowdStrike going down and shutting down banks, airports, transportation, and more. It's negatively impacting Microsoft. You see a lot in tech right now with, again, you see it with CrowdStrike dropping down. We shorted CrowdStrike earlier, made a little bit of money here. You see it reflected in everything, though. So we'll see what happens there. Schwab just told me worldwide servers are down, no orders are getting filled. That doesn't sound right. I have Schwab and I literally shorted CrowdStrike, the stock that's to blame for all this stuff, and it filled. Look, I made like 35 bucks from it, but yeah, my shares are working, you know. Let me see. Let me try. Yeah, my shares are working. I just got filled more. So maybe, yeah, Yeah. Yeah, everything's working for me. I shorted CrowdStrike this morning. It worked fine. HIMS fell on a short seller report. Yeah, but that was like a couple weeks ago, right? HIMS. Did they have another one that came out today for HIMS, or is it the old one that dropped a couple weeks ago? HIMS is up way too much for me to buy it, though. It's up. HIMS is up over 100% on the year, even at this level. It was open up more than that. Yesterday? Yeah, I would just be careful buying CrowdStrike right now. Again, I'm not sure what this will do. I'm usually one to buy up extended dips. Like, these are usually my favorite dips to buy, like this. And I wanted to buy it up down here. But by the time I was able to on toss, it had bounced back all the way up here. And then I shorted the top up here and made some money on the downside. But, yeah. People are having to boot up in safe mode. Yeah. Right. And so the only risk, I think, like the reason I shorted CrowdStrike is because CrowdStrike, I don't mind buying it up at the lows at 270, because I think at these lows, it's very probable that we're going to get a rebound back up. But once we bounce up here, the question you have to ask yourself in this situation is it going to fill the gap more? And I don't think it's going to fill the gap all the way back up to where it was here. I think that's much less probable. Why do I think it's less probable? Because there's still massive problems with CrowdStrike, and I couldn't imagine that they're not going to be negatively impacted at all from this report. If CrowdStrike is to blame for hospitals, airports, all this stuff having massive problems today, why in the world would they be neutral on the day? They would at least be down a little bit, right? And so in that regard, at least if the market's moving in a sensible way, it doesn't make any sense to try to buy this gap fill here. Because, again, anything can happen. Anything could really happen here. But to me, like for me, that simply just does not make sense. Like it simply does not make sense. There's no reason to buy it up down there. And I think it's more probable that CrowdStrike corrects a little bit. That's actually where my short idea came from, where I shorted it up here thinking that it would fall, and it did, and we made a little bit. But I don't trust that very much either. So I think there's risk. Just be careful. Do whatever you want. I don't want to discourage you from making the right decision. If you are correct, so do whatever you want. I'm staying away from it. BLK's AI system joins the market. I'm glad I am not into computers anymore. Don't have people asking me to fix their stuff when something goes wrong. Yeah, well, computer is trending more like I went to Michigan, right? And it was really kind of weird because, you go to Michigan and you see a lot of what I saw a lot. I was in small town Michigan, like a very small town in Michigan. And one thing that I saw a lot of is computer shops, PC repair shops, right? But I was talking to my wife about it. One of the very obvious things that's happened over the last 10 years, and again, if you understand technology, you'll understand this nuance of it, which is that PCs, software is getting bigger and hardware is getting smaller, right? Like, what do I mean by that? Less people need you to fix their PC. Most of the time, the problems with PCs are software related, not hardware related. And so, like a PC repair shop seems an obsolete concept to me. And again, most of these businesses were failing at this little town I was in. And so hardware repair shops are going to be less and less of a thing, I think. And software programmers, developers are going to be more prevalent moving forward. Yeah. Too much downside uncertainty, probably. Yeah. Am I the only one buying Bitcoin miners? I mean, I'm sure you're not the only one. Bitcoin's basically flat over the past 6 months, you know, so what are they, like, look, so here's Bitcoin, right? Like, let's take a look. CrowdStrike falling down a little bit. Here's Bitcoin, though. I mean, I think the only real way to play Bitcoin right now, unless you're long-term holders, which I think a lot of people should be, but, you know, here's the last 6 months on a weekly chart. Buying the bottom, covering the top, buying the bottom, covering the top, buying the bottom, covering the top. That's the only thing that makes sense if you're trying to trade it short term. And again, we just hit our bottom and now we're back up. I do think we're slightly downtrending, but who knows where Bitcoin's going to go. I'm not going to short Bitcoin. Yeah, I have comp TIA certs and nobody needs the PC work doing because you just buy a new one. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Everybody's just buying a new PC. They're not needing to... they don't need a computer repairman anymore. It's kind of like a TV repairman. Like, nobody really needs a TV repairman, a computer repairman. Nobody needs any of that stuff. Everybody instead is just going to buy a new computer, you know. PC repair shops here have expanded to cell phones. Yeah, I get it. But again, I think those business, like cell phone repair shops are different because you can put in screens. Like, screen replacement is a big business. For cell phones, you know, so it's a big business, and if you learn how to do it, you know, it can be useful. But outside of that, like, computer repair shops are moot, pointless. Of course, Microsoft's not going to zero. Microsoft's still a very strong attitude, or a very strong stock. Cybersecurity cert, $250 a year. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so was I right about CrowdStrike? I think so, right? Let me see. Yep. I'm not going to say I was right about CrowdStrike, but definitely right about CrowdStrike. Again, it doesn't mean they're not going to bounce back more. If they fall down, like if CrowdStrike falls back down here, I will buy it. But it needs to fall down here for me. Like 285s is my level. If it falls down there, I'll buy it. But if not, I'm just not going to touch it. All right, so let me get my day trading stream schedule. We've been doing our day trading stream. Alright, so look at Nvidia bounce right at the VWAP here. Jobless claims yesterday. No, Michael. How do you think Palantir will do? I'm in Palantir right now. I don't know what they're gonna do though, earnings-wise. That's nobody knows, you know. Like nobody knows what they're gonna do earnings-wise. Like genuinely, nobody knows. So it's something that you just gotta take. Like you gotta just understand the risks. Alright, so again, CrowdStrike is still down. Look at it, the NASDAQ bounced right at the 200 EMA. So Nvidia popped all the way back up. Let's see if it holds. We're in Nike still. Nike's still at 72.40s. I don't know what I want to do with that one, though. Netflix, what's your view? Netflix is basically flat. They had bad guidance, but good EPS and good revenue. And so they're essentially just sideways from that report. So, yeah. Like, they're just kind of sideways from the report. So CRWD is really the root cause of this, which is, again, why I was kind of a short bias as it bounced all the way back up here. All right. Yeah, we're going to do our day trading show today and try it. We've also got a really good short that we posted on TikTok. Give me a follow there at Beginner Trades. It's about, we got a really good story about Netscape and Microsoft battling each other. So we had a really fun story there. Alright, so do you think CrowdStrike is a buy? I think it'll take a buck to get 583 though. Schwab trading's not down for me. It works. I don't understand how Nike still makes money. They're way too expensive for the quality of their product. I mean, I think that's a silly thought process. It's all good, Far. It's all good. It's all love here. But I think that's a silly thought process. Why is it a silly thought process? Because people will pay hundreds of dollars for shoes, brother. Thousands of dollars for shoes. The sneaker market's huge. And it's still big despite the noticeable pullback and decline. What's interesting is that watch prices have also fallen. So Rolex prices, sneaker prices have also decreased over the past, like, couple months. And so for me, to be honest, like, that's the time to buy. So, like, that's the time to buy watches. That's the time to buy up, you know, some sneakers. I don't know the sneaker market super well, but for all my sneaker enthusiasts, is it time to buy up? Is there like an investment aspect of it where you can buy up sneakers now and then hopefully they appreciate? Or is it something where, like, is the sneaker market mostly like around new sneakers coming out? Like, I guess the point is, like, are 5 or 10-year-old sneakers retaining value or not is the question. Like, do they lose value over time? Do they depreciate heavily? Global blue screens of death. I don't think anyone grasped the macro effect yet. Cash only for many places. Banks are down too. Yeah, it's definitely negatively impacting everything. We gotta watch markets. Nike is cheap for his usual ways. Yeah, Nike stock is great. I'm talking about, like, sneakers in general, right? Is my question. You know, CrowdStrike negatively impacting things. And again, my short idea was right. Yeah, Nike can print sneakers faster than you can wear them, 100%, right? Like, that's what you got to understand. Nike's the brand right now in shoes. It's always been the brand for the last 30 years since Michael Jordan. 40 years. Man, I'm old. But yeah, last 40 years since Jordan. 100% Beanie Babies. Yeah, but Nike and Beanie Babies are wildly different things. Wildly different things. The real difference in Nike and Beanie Babies is that Beanie Babies had no utility. They were purely an investment thing. People like wearing Nikes. Nikes are more like a Rolex or like a luxury brand in that way, that you kind of wear it, you flex it, you know. Well, gold's falling after Japanese CPI reported yesterday. So Japan CPI showed up yesterday, and that caused these big drops, you know. No, I understand. I'm referring to people buying them, which props them up. It's the same with cell phones. I don't buy a new phone until the old is dying. I only buy work boots. Yeah, but again, that's just you. Everybody's different. Young people are the ones that prop up Nike. All right, guys. All right, NASDAQ still right at that previous closing price, just kind of chopping back and forth over and under. And Palantir, I'm still green on the day, especially. Palantir, I'm still green on. Yeah, I'm looking at everything else. What the heck is this guy doing? Bro, I see a video of this guy trying to rob a gun store. How dumb do you have to be, bro? Like, the IQ has got to be like 30 in these people that try to rob a gun store. It's got to be about the dumbest decision you could ever make. Watch is also Ali and DH $20 any style, any brand. Yeah, but there's always been fakes out there. The fakes are getting better though. Listen, from a watch guy, okay, from a watch guy. All right, like let me show you something here from a watch guy myself, right? Like Rolex movement, fake versus real. All right, like as a watch guy myself that knows watches, that can tell like a real Rolex versus a fake Rolex right now, which is very difficult to do, right? Like I'll show you the only real way for you to tell if the watch is real versus is it a fake right now. All right, the only real way is this. Okay, so the only real way, number one, is to look at the movement in the back of the Rolex, right? So you'll pop open a Rolex. Here's the fake movement, and the fake movement has gotten really, really good. Really, really, really good. They've basically reversed engineered Rolex movement over the past like couple years, right? They've really reverse engineered it, right? And I'm pretty sure the balance arm is going to get reverse engineered as well, right? So a couple things here that you can tell this is fake, right? So the reason you can tell this is fake, a couple reasons. Number one, the first way you can tell this is fake is because the blue string here, right? Real ones have very distinct blue string. For the fake ones, you can see it's kind of like a silverish color here. The real ones have this very clear blue string, you know, and I'm guessing the fakes, it's too expensive to paint it and have it stay like that. I'm sure they might paint it blue, but it's not going to stay blue, and they're probably just not thinking about it because if it's moving anyway. The main tell, though, with this watch is the balance arm, right? So a real Rolex will have a freestanding balance arm like this. So it's only going to have one right here. It's only going to have this one arm right here. It's not going to be multiple. The fake ones will have multiple because it's too expensive to have free balance like this on the real one. It's too expensive to replicate that, right? So the fake ones, if you crack it open, everything else will be essentially identical. Like everything else, like all the other movement in the back of the watch, even if you crack open the back of it, will look exactly the same. The only distinguishing factor is the balance arm. You know, the real ones are going to have one balance arm like this. It's just going to be one like this. The fake ones are going to have multiple. Usually they're going to have two. Sometimes you'll see them come out like this, and they'll be like that or something. Like, but the fake ones are going to have multiple. They're not going to have just one. You know, it's too expensive to replicate that right now. Eventually they're probably going to get good at it and do it, but for now that's what it looks like, you know. The question you have to ask yourself, though, and to be honest, the question you have to ask yourself is, what's the difference? You know, again, buying something like this, right? This right side, this is what's called a super clone. It's most likely a super clone. What that means is that this is $1,000 watch. You know, this watch probably cost $1,000. The fake watch probably cost about $1,000, right? $1,000 for a fake Rolex, right? But if you buy the actual Rolex, it's going to cost $15,000, you know, roughly $15K for the real one. The question, though, I think you have to ask yourself, and again, I love watches, right? Like, I'm a big watch guy, but I have to look at the future of watches objectively here. And again, the biggest risk for watches and investing in watches is that if the fakes are already at a point where they're virtually indistinguishable from the real thing, only the balance arm is the only distinguishing factor, and you got to basically crack open the entire back of the watch to see it, that it's fake. If it's already at that level, what happens over the next 5 years where they start getting freestanding balance with one arm just like the real ones? How much does that hurt the watch market? Like, the fakes getting so good, how much does that hurt the watch market? That's the real question. And how much does that depreciate the cost of Rolexes over time? If the fakes get good enough to where they're indistinguishable from the real thing, you know, how negatively does that impact the watch market? And I think it's big, especially when you get to big brands like Patek, Omega. You know, Omegas are very difficult to spot fakes. Yeah, same goes for paintings too. Paintings, same exact concept, same exact nuance here. Yeah, the screws are certainly different, lower quality. You'll see if you zoom in, if you use like a jeweler's loop, the finish on the finishing on the screws is fake, or the fake ones are much rougher. Like, the finishing on the entire movement of the watch is usually a lot rougher, but it's getting really good. Yeah, like, look, like, so I cracked open the back of mine when I first got it. I bought it from a reputable source, but just because of the amount of money I spent on it, right? Like, just based off of how much money I spent on these freaking watches, I had to know it was real. I needed to know it was real. And so I cracked open the back of my watch myself, and I'll show you what it looked like. Let me make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, so I cracked open the back of the watch myself, and this is what the back of mine looked like. So I know it was real, right? I figured out it was real. Yeah, so here's the back of mine myself. I'm not going to be too specific about where I got it, but I didn't get it from Rolex. I'll tell you that. You can't get the watch that I got from Rolex. They don't sell it. They're not going to sell it to you. It'll take years for you to get that watch. But yeah, the point is, like, so here's my, or no, wait, that's not mine. This is mine. And it's a little dirty, but the point remains, it's real. It's got the blue finish. So here's the back of mine when I cracked it open. Right, again, if you zoom in here, the first thing you'll see, let me see if I can zoom in. Is it there a... I want to zoom in here. I wish it would let me. Where's the scope? Oh, whatever. The first thing you'll see is it's got the freestanding wheel. Second thing you'll see is it's blue. But yeah, point is, it's very difficult to tell fakes. All right, guys. Yeah, I mean, most people don't wear Rolexes to top. I buy them because they're investment pieces. Like, I could buy it. I keep mine in safety deposit boxes. I don't ever even freaking wear them. But I buy them because they most of the time will keep up with inflation, you know? And so they're kind of like stuff I can hand off to my kids. All right, chat. Getting closer and closer here. We're going to be day trading, doing a day trading stream today like we always do as well. We'll see how it goes, right? Like, we'll see how it goes. NASDAQ's popping up some. We are going to day trade. Again, everything's kind of light. Numbers are a little bit lighter today, and that's all right. This is like the slowest couple week period we'll get. Yeah, so Pawn helped. Pawn showed me one of the zoomed in ones. Let me exit out of some of this stuff. There we go. Yeah, so again, the question is, when's the right time to buy real estate, man? It's a big question. I don't know, man. I'm gonna wait. So I think if you're buying cash, again, there might be a good, like, there might be good, it might be a good time. But if you're not buying cash, interest rates are freaking high, and who knows when the interest rates are going to go down. The question, the Fed's going to start cutting rates in September, right? And this is going to benefit a lot of people in real estate and mortgages and everything like that. Again, though, the problem is the real problem is when do rates start cutting down anyway, you know? All right, guys, so we got a couple minutes left. Again, we are going to be doing a day trading stream today where we try to stick around a little bit longer. Yeah, so we had ChatGPT give me this thing of real estate prices too when we're looking at it. So we had ChatGPT give me this thing of real estate prices. The problem is that, like, look, like I can even draw the trend here. Let me draw it myself. Hold on. So this is real estate price appreciation over the past 5 years. So real estate price appreciation over the past 5 years is this. Right, so you can see real estate prices have increased 50% in 5 years. You know, obscenely high. The question is, what happens to prices moving forward after all this stuff? Like, when do prices start to go down is the question. Yeah, Movados are alright, but they're not the best. Belovas are cool. I got some Belovas. Yeah, so we're going to be day trading here on this channel. Most assets appreciate over time. Real estate does as well, but the cost of it short term is probably going to go down, I think. So I think real estate prices will go up long term. Real estate appreciates. The reason real estate's the king of investments, though, is because real estate will roughly appreciate at about 5% annually, right? If you get a rental property, it's going to appreciate at 5% annually, roughly, and you're going to make rental income on top of it, right? So, like, the added benefit of cash flow and appreciation is there with real estate, and that trumps most other conventional investments over time, you know, over time. Yeah, the best time to buy real estate was 3-4 years ago, 2020, like pre-2021. Prices went up a lot in 2021. I know this because this is when we bought our house. But yeah, prices went up dramatically. But at this point in time, they're still up a lot, and I question whether they're going to hold these gains. All right, guys, so time to show the whole housing market. I don't know if it's a beginner watch trading channel. I don't know. I like watches like that, but my collection of watches is not super in depth. Like, I've got a couple nice watches and a couple cheap watches, you know. Like, I've got some Movados and Belovas, which are cheap watches. I've got a couple Rolexes too. Again, I put them up. I don't keep them with me. I put them in safety deposit boxes, just because like we have cleaning people here and like all this other stuff, so it just doesn't make sense to keep them here. I don't ever wear them. Like you would see, if I had them, I would wear them. You know, I just don't ever wear them. I am thinking about getting an Omega recently, though. Omega prices are down. Speedmasters are down. Speedy prices are down. I've been thinking about buying one of them, which are a little bit cheaper relative to Rolex, but they're cool watches. I'd be more comfortable wearing it regularly. I just can't justify wearing a $15,000 watch on my wrist every day. Seems like risky, you know. But yeah, we'll see what mortgages do. Honestly, the housing market's interesting right now. We'll see. Yeah, we're going to be day trading our funded account live on stream, so stick around, chat. We're going to try to trade big size today. Yesterday, we made like $600 or something. Today, we're going to try again. Is Rhythmic down today on Apex? I know a lot of stuff is down right now. A lot of stuff is down. But is Rhythmic down? Y'all be careful, bro. I've seen a lot of scammers lately, in specifically the comment section of my videos. You know, one thing the scammers have been doing is they're creating fake cryptos, and then they're leaving comments saying, hey, you should buy Bitcoin, ETH, and AX523. AX523 is the greatest, and then they'll send a bunch of bots to it And the bots will be like, oh, you like AX523 as well? Wow, so many people like it. You know, the people selling it are mostly on Telegram. Wink, wink, wink. Like, just terrible scams. Terrible scams. And unfortunately, some people fall for it. There's Nvidia bouncing back. CrowdStrike has bounced back a little bit too. It's over 300s. So yeah, just be careful. Also, though, if you want a really cool video, we posted the on TT. We posted it's at Beginner Trades. I'm pretty sure yeah, it's at Beginner Trading. So at Beginner Trading on TT. Give your boy a follow. I appreciate it. And let me see if yeah. Okay, we're good. Rhythmic's connected, so we're good there. These are probably international scammers. I would say a lot of these scammers are located in like India, in the Middle East, to be honest. That's where a lot of them are from. Because again, like for them, right, their average like monthly wage is going to be much less than what they'll make scamming people, right? So a lot of people do that overseas, I know. Unfortunately, the real teller, and I don't know how they haven't fixed this yet, but nobody in the US uses kindly. Like, kindly leave your information here. Nobody in the US uses that. Nobody speaks like that here in the US, right? And so they use that heavily overseas. And so if somebody uses kindly to you and they're pretending to be from the US, like, kindly leave your message here, sir. They're not from the US. They're probably an overseas scammer. Be careful. That's the easiest tell for me, personally, is kindly. Kindly gets people. I don't know how, but it does. Yeah, Richard Mill, I can't justify ever buying an RM. Like, it looks like a child's watch to me. Like a child's watch for 150K. I just can't get down with it. Richard Mill seems silly. They're like little children's watch, you know. Some bad apples on IG. People that fall for those scams should reconsider. Yeah, I mean, again, one thing you realize is that, look, I'm not claiming to be the smartest guy ever, right? I'm not claiming to be a genius. I'm not claiming to be like Albert Einstein over here. I'm not claiming to be that at all, okay? But one thing you realize very, 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 very heavily is that there's a lot of dumb people out there, right? There's a lot of just dumb people that don't have any type of critical thinking ability, and they just end up getting taken by these scammers, unfortunately. You know, I wish them the best. I hope they figure it out. But, you know, you realize that very quickly, you know. There's a lot of people that, yeah, they're just not the sharpest tools in the shed, if you know what I mean. But I wish them the best, like I said. All right, guys. Again, we're going to be trying to do a day trading show today. It's Friday. We ain't got no job. And we ain't got ish to do but do a day trading show today. We'll see how it goes. Let me make sure redirect is working. So you shouldn't have to go anywhere once we redirect you over to this. You shouldn't have to go anywhere. As soon as we close the stream, it should immediately redirect you to our day trading stream. Top 3 Albert Einsteins in the world right now for sure. Right, well, that's why Rolex is the same. Rolex is supply and demand. It's kind of like, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of places shut down right now. Again, that's probably why we have the negative impact of viewership, right? Like, viewers are 300 people today. It's probably because a lot of people can't, like a lot of people, like, I looked at other channels too. Other channels are pretty light right now as well. And so that's probably realistically what it is that they, yeah. But anyways, again, guys, we're going to go ahead and stream the day trading channel. So stick around. You shouldn't have to go anywhere. If it, for whatever reason, does not send you to the day trading channel, go to this link. Here's the day trading channel link. If for whatever reason it doesn't bring you there, there's the link right there. All right, guys. Again, we're going to go ahead and switch over to this channel here. Again, stick around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go over to the day trading channel here. And, yeah, I'll see you guys over there. Good luck. Again, you shouldn't have to go anywhere. As soon as we close this stream, it should redirect you. Once we get over to the new stream, though, let me know if it did. All right. Redirect should be working. We're going to see you guys over there. I'll see you guys in a second.